we're going to start here with Pioneer Elementary and Miss Christy Jeffords and Mr. Dwight Smith. How are you all today?
Fine, how are you
doing?
doing?
Good. How are you, Mrs. Collins?
Beautiful day out, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Lovely.
Could be a foot of snow. Okay, Christy?
Well, thank you so much, and good afternoon to the board members and to our superintendent, Dr. Cox-Cruey. We're just thrilled to be here today. Like you said, I'm Christy Jeffords, the principal of Pioneer Elementary. This is Dwight Smith, my assistant principal. And I'm just so proud and happy to be in front of you today to tell you how Pioneer is doing. When I started at Pioneer in 2010, at that time we were the lowest ranked elementary school in the district. And as of this year, when we got our K-Prep results, we moved up to number 3 in the district. So we're very proud of our progress. I'm so proud of the hard work of our teachers and students, and I'm very grateful for the support of the parents and our community members. We ranked in the 87th percentile, which meant we were just 3 points away from being in the distinguished ranking. So that's our goal. That's where we want to get next year. So that's what we're working toward. And I was very proud of our growth in reading. That had been an area that had been kind of stagnant over the last few years. So to see that we were number 5 in the state and number 1 in the district for growth in reading just made me very, very happy. We have been working this past year to have that growth, and what we've done to get there is we've used several different strategies and systems. The Read 180 and System 44 is a system that's being used throughout the district. I just feel that our staff has done an excellent job of providing that consistent instruction every single day, of following the protocol so that they're delivering the system with fidelity, and we've definitely seen excellent student growth from our struggling readers. We had reading RTI at every level, in every grade level. So last year, every day, the teachers would work with students. When we would get their MAP results, we would know which students were having difficulties, and we'd also use some DIBELS testing to determine other areas that they might need some help with. And so every day, the teachers were meeting for 20 minutes with those students in very small groups to help work on those specific skills that they needed improvement in. And we monitored that data every week, so our RTI team was looking at the interventions and making sure that they were effective. When we'd see interventions that weren't working, we would change it up and do something different. Or if we were seeing success and they'd met their goals, we could move them on to something that was a little bit more challenging for them. We've really tried hard to focus on the core academic standards. We just got those last year, so last year was a test drive for everyone. We were trying to get used to them. The district did a wonderful job of providing training to our teachers, to the administrators, and also the consultants that help us in the buildings were just incredible. So that first year, I felt like we did a very good job of being able to adhere to the standards and get to the meaning of the standards. We still are growing in that area, but I think that having that first year under our belt was just very helpful for us and will help us improve as we continue on with them. We really use that Compass learning with our students. It just helps us differentiate for every child in the building. So when we look at growth, we're not just looking at the students that are struggling and need to grow. We're looking at each and every student. That includes our high-level students who really need to be challenged. So the Compass Learning is one way that we can help to differentiate for them. And it works in conjunction with the MAP test. So however they test on the MAP, it designs a little path for them and some individualized instruction that the children can do on the computer. So that's been a real benefit for our students. We've worked hard in our PLCs, our professional learning community. I really feel that everything we do is being a part of a professional learning community. We're always looking at the data. We're looking at how are we getting the results that we're getting and what do we need to do to improve, and just focusing on improving instruction in our building is what we do every single day. Our achievement scores were good. I was very happy with our reading score, and I did notice that both in our growth and achievement, reading outstripped math. And in the past, it was kind of reversed. We did better in math than in reading. And I attribute that somewhat to the change in the new standards. The math standards became so much more rigorous that it was almost like the children in intermediate skipped a grade. And then there was this little gap that we had to backfill. So last year, they were kind of straddling, what they would have taught a year ahead, and then what they should have, that they're used to teaching at that grade level. So it was challenging for our teachers. We also implemented a new math series called Math in Focus, which we felt aligned much better with the core standards than the previous adoption that we had had. So I felt that it was good, but I was just talking to a teacher the other day in her classroom, and she said, I'm starting to see that gap is decreasing between those two standards. The kids are, what we did last year is better preparing them for the new standards. So I think with that, we're going to see a big growth in math this year. That's what I'm expecting. So. Again, there are some of the things that are attributing success to our achievement, the same that we see in growth. So you're going to see some commonalities there. One of the things that I think is very helpful for us to make sure that all of our students are achieving and growing are the frequent visits in the classroom. Mr. Smith and I visit every classroom, and we try to get in every classroom every day, and we provide feedback on a regular basis to the teachers so that they know what they're doing that's good. And I really like to highlight and focus on what are the positive things that they're doing, what are those proficient practices that we're seeing, and then some suggestions. How can they refine that, and what can they do better, and what are some things that we can suggest to them? Also providing some resources. You might need some help with this, so this is what we can do to help you to get there. We have been using the KSID system, the Positive Behavioral Intervention System, for probably about 8 or 9 years at Pioneer now, and it's just become a part of the culture of what we do. And that explicit instruction for behavioral expectations has really paid off. The misbehavior, and knock on wood, has been so limited this year, especially, that we're able to focus so much more on instruction in the classrooms rather than putting out fires with different student behaviors. So the teachers are able to be on task with the students more. And part of that may be that the activities that they're doing with their students are so engaging. They're using a lot of technology with their instruction. We've spent a lot of our budget on that in the last few years. And so they're really incorporating technology into their instruction very effectively, and doing some different kinds of group projects and collaborative efforts with the students. And it's so interesting to the kids that they want to be in the classroom and they want to be learning. So, this year, what we've looked at is, what do we need to do to improve? So we are working on increasing flashbacks in every classroom. And what that entails is that students, they learn something in a content area, and then maybe once they've been tested on it, oftentimes you just move on and they don't see it again until it's on the state assessment. And we want to avoid that. So the teachers are doing regular daily flashbacks of material that's been taught previously, but it's to keep that content in front of the students constantly so that they're not just forgetting it. And they're doing a much better job of retaining the information. We are starting Math RTI this year. In the past, one of our biggest deficits was we didn't have a good research-based math intervention to do with our students. So a lot of our Math RTI was just kind of reteaching what they'd already had. But now there's a really good product out there called Do the Math that we just purchased, and I know a lot of the schools in our district are using it this year. And it really helps go back and rebuild that number sense with students that they didn't get when they were primary students. And if they don't get that building block early on, it really affects them later. So now we're going back and kind of helping those kids go back to fill those gaps and to work on improving their understanding of the numbers. We are writing across all the content areas, and one of the research-based suggestions is to have students write. So they write in math, they write in science, they write in social studies, they have reflection journals, they write in writing. They write all the time. So they're getting very good at their reflective thinking and in being able to express themselves on paper. We have some teachers that are involved in the co-op math training, and they're going and getting some specialized math training. So it works in conjunction with that Do the Math program, which is great. It's not the way it's designed, but that's the net result of it. So they're getting some really good math intervention training. We also have a teacher that's working with the district with some specialized science training. So we're gearing up to take on the new science standards because those will be more rigorous as well. So we're doing some groundwork to prepare for that. Looking at some areas that we want to really make some improvement on in our GAP group. With Pioneer being such a small school, in the past when the disaggregated data came out, we really didn't see how our students with disabilities did because we never had enough on the No Child Left Behind report to really see how those students did. So this time with the non-duplicated gap group, we were able to go in and see that our students with disabilities had a little difficulty. So those are areas that we're going to continue working on. So for reading, we're going to continue doing System 44 and Read 180. We've had another teacher trained in Orton Gillingham, and we're still using for our primary the Read to Achieve and Reading Intervention, small group in individual instruction, and some in RTI. So we're just going to continue working on trying to help the students that struggle in reading to get the extra help that they need, and try some different strategies. And in math, again, that was another area where we felt that the students with disabilities did not keep pace with the general population. And we just need to continue working on that. Now that we have to do the math, I think that's going to be key to their success, as well as we've started using Dreambox with our younger students, and that's a computer program, but it's an adaptive one. So it really can tell what the children need and help design their learning paths for them. So we're just going to continue our math RTI program. Still, it's in its early days, and I'm sure that will continue to evolve as we determine what works best. But those are our starting strategies. And then again, we just saw a difference in our math and reading scores. The growth in math was 66.9% compared to the 82% in reading. So we know we have our work cut out for us in math. And again, I think that having had a year of learning to decipher what the standards are trying to get to has really helped our teachers. And so now we're using not only the Math in Focus, but they're branching out and using some additional resources, because we don't teach the text, we teach the standards, and we just use the text and additional resource materials to help teach those standards. And then just one little thing I did want to add, that I'm just so proud of my school community, because last year in March, we had a tornado that went through and disrupted the lives of so many of our students and staff. And 2 months later, we gave the K-Prep test. A lot of our students were still struggling at that time, displaced from their homes, and to see how well they did on this test just speaks volumes to me about their character, about their work ethic, and how proud they are of what they can do and that they can show what they know. So, do you have any questions that I can answer for you?
You guys got any questions?
I have a quick question and maybe a broad question. How long have we been doing System 44 and Read 180?
This is the third year.
Third year, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we should be getting kind of
Yes, yeah. It's a great program. I'm very happy that the district adopted it for us, because it has made such a difference for so many of our students.
Could you tell me, you were talking about writing across the content areas and children do well in writing. When I hear the word writing, I think of cursive, and I just, I'm curious.
Okay,
Could you
yeah.
address that?
Writing, not the handwriting aspect of it, but more of what they're thinking. So like a reflection journal, or sometimes if they've, the teacher might ask them to answer a question about something that they learned, and then they can go and they'll have a journal they'll take out, and then they write about it. And the teachers read those and respond to the students' writing. And sometimes they keep it as like they take notes and they keep it as notes, but really the writing that helps them deepen their learning is when they reflect on their learning and write in their journals about it. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, common assessment.
Could you just tell me
common assessment.
your personal opinion of how many students do well or can do cursive?
How many students can do cursive? We touch on cursive in second grade, but it's not been something that we've adopted as a site-based council for a handwriting program. And that's something that we're considering right now, because I know that in this day and age, so many people keyboard and type. Not so many people handwrite as much anymore. However, handwriting is still out there, and the students, even if they choose not to write cursive, they still need to be able to read it. So that is something that we're taking a look at Pioneer right now.
So by the time they get out of Pioneer, you'd say what percentage? Just curious, from personal, not professional.
I'm sorry, I just would have to get that information and get back to you on that.
I didn't mean to put those. Thanks.
But I can get back to you on that, Mr. Martin. Okay.
Thank you all very
Okay,
much.
thank you very much.
Okay, so we're going to start with a couple of points of pride. According to our K-Prep data, our biggest area of strength was our growth. We had 71% of our students that made typical or higher growth in reading, and 71.4% of our students that made typical or higher growth in combined reading and math. So we're really proud of that aspect of our students. I'm going to start off by telling you some of the things that we implemented last school year to help with that growth. 65.5% of our students made typical or higher growth in reading and math combined. Some things that happened day to day in the classrooms were teachers were intentionally meeting to goal set with students, had to have those conversations. We took MAP tests, which we really have, our teachers have really bought into MAP and the data and understanding and analyzing. So once they took their benchmark MAP data, I sat down and individually met with each teacher last school year. And then we desegregated that data. We talked about, okay, those students that scored 70% or above would kind of be correlated to the students that would be distinguished on K-Prep and so forth. Then we talked about what are we going to do to keep those students in this position? What are we going to do for those kids that are not where they need to be? And we made sure that each kid, if they were below grade level, that they were receiving an intervention. Made sure that those kids that were above grade level or expectation were being challenged. We had weekly PLCs with our teachers. Our teachers at that time, we gave common assessments according to the district timeline, and then we would meet and talk about during those PLCs the common assessments. And it was very eye-opening with the new Kentucky Core Academic Standards because it helped our teachers realize when they saw those common assessments that some of the standards maybe they didn't have a good a grip on as they needed, and it really helped them bring light to, wow, that's what that standard was looking for. So it really gave us a lot of time to reflect as a staff on what we needed to do to improve. Just like Christy said, at Pioneer Compass Learning, you know, the MAP test gave those students individual paths so that they could have individualized instruction. And then last year we had a really high bunch of 5th grade students, and we really accelerated them in math. Next, Mr. Shacker is going to talk to you about some of the things that we've implemented this school year to really help us with our scores.
Absolutely. Of course, we have things such as the PREP and PREP Plus that we have in place where we're following the GATES modules with that. Along with that, our teachers really have a focused, intentional planning where they plan together on a daily and weekly basis. Very focused to the point to where they're accounting for every minute of every day. Everything to the read alouds that they may be planning, where those are connected to specific standards within their classrooms. We've also had a number of job embedded PDs to where helping these teachers to where they can focus on the standards, to where they can better understand them, since they were new last year to them and they're getting more comfortable with them, and also to where they've used some of that, such as over the summer going into this year, they used some of that job embedded PD to start planning some units and some different modules that connected directly and make rigorous learning with these new standards that they've been working with. Our teachers have been very focused on the daily learning targets for each of their contents. If you go into a classroom, not only are these learning targets posted, but you hear the students verbalizing them and reflecting upon them and using them throughout the lesson, all the way to the end of that section when they will be using the learning targets in their exit slips and different types of formative assessment to make sure that the students are on track with those standards and the learning targets. Something as well that we're very focused on is differentiated instruction. Tina and I do daily walks, try to get into all the classrooms multiple times per week. And within those walks, we have a form, and on that form, for reflection for the teacher's benefit and for ours as well, it's a two-part form. Part of that is that they have to have differentiated instruction in their lesson plans, specifically with numeracy and literacy, but also to where we are observing that. We're seeing it in action. They're utilizing things like Tina mentioned, that the MAP data. They're using MAP RIT bands and the Descartes information to where they can formulate these into small group learning and individual differentiated instruction to help the learners at different places. I'd like to talk for a minute about some of the research-based programs that we've been implementing this year that we believe will help with and impact the student growth. We've been utilizing number talks at all of our grade levels. And that is where the students come up with the strategies utilized to solve different type of math problems. It's really neat to see you're in a classroom and they're building upon each other's learning and sharing their different methods of thinking, and it's really gone into not just that specific part of the lesson, but it goes throughout the day. You'll hear the students using that type of language, and it may be in their literacy block to where they're using that, but it's really encouraged the student discussion and learning off of each other as well. It's been a great program. As was mentioned previously, we also have Do the Math at Fort Wright Elementary. This helps to reach our Tier 2 and Tier 3 learners. And we have an instructional assistant who implements that throughout the day, and with a very focused schedule for the needs of the students, once again using data for which students should be in which groups. We've already had a number of on-site visits from the Do the Math consultants, and each one of them, they've had very positive feedback for us in regards to our implementation and that program is being implemented with fidelity. We also have Extra Math that we've been utilizing with our students. This is a free online program that it helps to design to increase the students' fact fluency to where that's not a barrier for them when working in the classrooms. It's been very effective not only in the classroom, but it's also has been a resource that our parents can utilize at home to where they're able to work with that without it being a difficulty for the parents having to understand or work with that different type of material. We've also been doing a study on the Daily 5, which is a literacy program, and we will begin full implementation of that when we return from winter break. It's been a type of a book study we've been doing as a staff to make sure that we're ready to implement it. We have a number of teachers that are really gung-ho about it, and they're trying to fast forward that as well, but that we believe will be a very effective program as well. We also, I believe we're in our 10th year as a KSID school, so things are running very effectively there. It's a very positive school. I would invite any of you, of course, anytime to come see just how positive the culture is. Our teachers and our staff are fantastic about the teaching and reteaching of our expectations and how they apply throughout the students' lives. They've worked really hard at that and making it positive. Like I said, we've actually have a 53% reduction in discipline referrals for this year. We have a very low number of that. Our focus for common areas has been on the buses and in the cafeteria, and the students have just been awesome with that. So, you know, between them teaching the expectations and having the daily rigorous, engaging lessons, the students have just, they've been fantastic.
I think too often kids just don't know what to expect, so they do whatever.
Right. But with the teaching and knowing the expectation, yes, it helps so much.
And you can ask our kindergartners what the 5 expectations are, 5 B's that they follow, and I believe all of them could tell you and tell you how they apply.
Right.
Yes.
Everything they do in life.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and then the last I have to say with that is part of a program. It's not necessarily new this year, but the goal setting with the MAP, that's also something that it's part of the culture. You know, right now we're going through our winter MAP testing, and there are students coming up to us all the way throughout the day, showing us what their goal was.
20 points higher than I expected. I mean, they're just so excited to talk to us.
It's really exciting with that.
Okay, so after reviewing our data from K-Prep scores, we know that we have some challenges ahead of us, some things that we need to change and make sure that all these programs that we have started this year are implemented with fidelity. We had only 61.4% of our students proficient in reading and 65.5% proficient in math. So some of the things that we're really going to focus on are during our weekly PLCs, we're going to make sure that we're analyzing the common assessments, making sure that we're bringing good instructional strategies to our teachers, that we're learning in our CIAs, making sure that we feed them with everything that we know, analyzing map data, making sure that we're all calibrated with our writing pieces, we're all scoring a proficient piece as proficient. During weekly planning, where teachers have 1 day a week of common planning, during that time we are discussing standards. We're looking at plans. We're making sure that teachers have learner targets that hit a standard and that their learning experience hits that target and that they have some way to assess the student learning. We're scheduling some special education training because we have a young, inexperienced team. However, they are driven. They want to learn. They want to do better. And we have scheduled some trainings with the co-op coming up in January so that they can add some more strategies to their toolbox so they can really increase our special education students. We're going to really make sure we're focused on reinforcing Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions. For example, if a student leaves the room to go to Read to Achieve and use the Sword of Success curriculum, when they come back into the classroom, we're giving them another double dose of that, so that they're getting reading small group in the classroom by their classroom teacher and they're getting it by the interventionist. We've also ordered Kentucky Core Academic Standard grade books for our teachers so that they have with them every day a checklist where they can mark off every student that has mastered every standard, because we need to know, we can track that. So we know who knows, who doesn't know, who we need to pull into RTI groups, and so forth. And another thing Mr. Shacker and I have been working on is our school culture. We want our teachers to know that we love them, we appreciate them. You know, we're going to support their hard work and their dedication to our students. And we want to make sure that each of them feels an important part of a team. That's our big focus this year, is we're one team at Fort Red Elementary. Our GAP students, we're going to really be focusing on them. 32% of them were proficient in reading and 29.8% proficient in math. And for us, those GAP students were our free and reduced students and our special education students. So things that we're really focusing on, like Mr. Shacker said, when we are doing our walks into the classrooms daily, we're making sure that not only is our plans written in their lesson plans, but that they're implementing them, that we're meeting the needs of all of our students. We're having some bi-weekly PLC meetings with our special education teachers. And during this time, we're making sure that we're discussing student data points with the special ed teachers to make sure that we're increasing, instead of just talking about what programs that we're implementing. But it's really important for us to see every couple of weeks what growth that student is making, seeing those actual data points. So we are starting some new programs that Mr. Shacker talked about. So it's really important that we are making sure those teachers are implementing all those programs with fidelity. So we're going to ensure that's happening. We're having bi-weekly PLCs with our teachers to discuss students that are in the RTI process, and just closely monitoring and analyzing data, because we don't want any child to fall behind or get skipped through. We want to make sure that all students achieve and are successful. PLCs are going to be held before and after school. This is really important that we have scheduled time for our teachers and our interventionists to discuss students, so that when a kid is gone for their whole literacy block to read 180, that classroom teacher knows exactly how accurate they're reading, where their vocabulary is going, so that our regular classroom teachers can really reinforce that in social studies content and science content. Once again, we're just going to continue reinforcing those Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions in instruction in the regular classrooms. We're going to continue with that intentional goal setting with MAP, and this year we've also started goal setting with Accelerated Reader, because we know that the more a student can read, the higher their vocabulary, comprehension, fluency, and accuracy will be. Really tracking those students' grade books that I told you that we had bought for them, making sure that they're using them, making sure that they're tracking which students have mastered which standards, so that no student is left behind. And something else that we've implemented this school year is we've added some committees. We have our own curriculum instruction and assessment committee to analyze data, and our program review committee, so that we can make sure that we have hit evidence so that we can be proficient, because this school year we're going to be a proficient school.
Well, I think you have it all in order.
We're going to try. We have a lot to do.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
fun during the day. Anybody else got any questions?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you next. Welcome, White's Tower Elementary, Miss Denise Chimiotti and Michelle Cobb. We're glad to see you, ladies. Very glad. Go ahead, tell us what you have.
Okay, we're really excited to be here to speak to all of you. We don't get this opportunity very often, so we're pumped about it. We wanted to focus on some things that we are very proud of at White's Tower. And the first thing is our growth. That's something we are super excited about. As you know, White's Tower has been hanging around the bottom of the pack, really close to the bottom for a while now. And it's good to see growth. Our growth from our students last year, we had 85% of our students make typical growth in math last year, and 77% of all of our students in reading and math made typical growth. So we're very excited about that, and that was huge for us. It moved us from the 27th percentile up to the 62nd percentile. So we feel like, you know, kind of shot us forward, and we're really proud of that. And we want to make you all proud, and we're proud to be part of this county. In last year's school year, we feel like we implemented many things that helped us to achieve this. Again, 85% of our students made typical growth in math or better, and 69% of our kids in reading made typical growth or better. I really feel like the new standards coming out last year were a true blessing for White's Tower. I feel like it made our teachers and our administrative team really stop and focus and think about what are we teaching in our classrooms. Just putting away all those old textbooks, getting rid of them, and really focusing on, is this a good resource or not? I feel like it was time for that at White's Tower. And I've said that many times, a true blessing. We had to really take standards and meet as teams and deconstruct those standards. We had a huge help from two of our CO consultants, many of our CO consultants, but Beverly and Tanya were there almost every week to work with our teachers and Angela and myself last year to really focus on our timelines and focus on the new standards and talk about what do these standards really mean, what do they look like, and last, do we have any resources to support them? So a lot of times last year we were really digging around, borrowing, getting online, and our consultants really helped us find those resources. But it was a challenge for our teachers, and it was a challenge for us. By the time we did have all those meetings, though, and we continued that, I felt like teachers knew what they were supposed to be showing students in the classroom, and it was not our old algorithms. It wasn't the old way of just teaching math and hoping kids get it, and that's it. It turned into this great thing where we were actually starting to teach kids about math, and we really wanted them to understand all the precursors of why you divide, why you multiply, why you're looking at things the way you're looking at them, to build this mathematically minded child, which I feel like I missed that sometimes as a child because I know how to do those things, but I don't know why I did them. So I'm really, really proud of that, and I think that helped us get to where we are, obviously, in our growth. Having the PLCs weekly also brought our teams together. It made them more unified, and we needed that at my school. Also, by doing that, by really focusing on standards in reading and math, it made us look at other standards in our other areas and say, well, have we really been honest and true to these standards? So it made us really relook at our lesson plans, relook at what we've been teaching in the past, and be more focused. I want to say at our school all the time to be more intentional. That's one of my favorite words there, and I think teachers might get sick of hearing it, but I'm going to keep on saying it. Which leads me to very intentional learning targets. I think when we first started talking about I can statements, a lot of teachers in the county and my school did them out of compliance. Okay, now they want us to do an I can statement. So I think a lot of teachers did I can statements. But what I think finally happened is they were like, hey, this works, and it does. So after some people started saying, well, wait a minute, if I don't do the I can statement, my kids are like, hey, Ms. Chimiotti, what are you thinking? We missed our I can statement. So I think that in itself, being very intentional with that, is all connected to new standards, new learning targets, I can statements that are very, very powerful. So I feel like that really helped and got people on board, and I'm still preaching that. But it was very helpful. I think extending our math block to 90 minutes was huge. Obviously, we had 85% of our students make a year's typical growth or more. We had a much smaller time allotted for math, so I think that was huge. I think really focusing on the new standards and the new strategies, it helped kids understand there are lots of ways to get to the answer. Which one are you going to choose? Which one are you comfortable with? But they had that. We also started using Number Talk, which I know you've heard of that, the Number Talks book. It really encourages kids and teachers to have students really talk about math and explain how they got to the answer, what steps did you follow, and then you have another kiddo talk about the same thing, and then students can see their thinking as well, which eventually leads to writing about math too, expressing that. We also started really focusing on math literacy by doing Rocket Math. It's Otter Creek. It's a fluency program. And we really talked that up, and we kind of borrowed this idea from Beech Grove. They do March Math Madness. We borrowed that from their school through our curriculum coach, Ruth Curtis. And that really helped our kids get excited about learning their numbers, and they all wanted to reach March Math Madness and get their little trophy, and I think that really encouraged them. We also really started goal setting last year in MAP. We did it different ways in our school. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, Angela and I myself, met with in small groups, and we really talked about what are your goals, where are you, where do you need to be with kids. And I think they were really surprised, like the principal and the assistant principal are sitting down with me to set a goal. Then they're gonna come back and check on me. And we also brainstorm with the kids, well, how do you think you can help yourself? This is what your teacher's gonna do, what are you gonna do? So that really, I think, projected kids forward because they knew how much we cared, and they knew we were gonna come back and check on them. And they were also very excited to come say, I met my goal, or I went up 10 points, and they are this year as well. We're continuing that. So I think that's exciting. I honestly believe that Read 180 has helped many of our students achieve that growth factor. They may still be lower than they need to be. They may still be below grade level, but by golly, they are learning, and they're growing, and I think we can attribute that to Read 180 and System 44. It's been a huge, huge help. I think, too, just thinking about teaching kids how to answer questions in reading, really having them go back to supporting their answers with the text. Often I see kids answering lower level questions in classrooms, and I think I've thought this for several years. And right when teachers kind of need to go deeper and dig deeper, they stop and move on. Well, we can't do that. We have to really press kids for accuracy and push them to prove and tell us, where did you get that evidence? You can't tell me that's what you think unless you can prove to me that it's true and show me where you got it. So in that nature, we're having kids support their answers with evidence. So I think as much as we can talk that talk and walk the walk and have them write that and do that, that prompted them to move forward as well. We also started looking at differentiating more, especially in math at White's Tower last year. I think moving away from whole group teaching, we started modeling our reading program where we did whole group and then we did small group work. And we hadn't really done that in the past, but I think that really helped kids have that small group instruction time with their teacher on a differentiated level for all of them. So I feel like that's what really pushed us forward to move all of those children in the growth area and move us from the 27th percentile up to the 62nd. This year, I also feel like we really have done some more things that I'd like to share with you. We have basically known from our K-Prep scores that our 3rd graders from last year, they're now 4th graders. Really, they've been a watch team, a watch level. Since 1st grade, they've been performing at a lower level, and we've been trying to put in the supports that we need since they were very young. After we have their K-Prep data, it's still pretty shocking how low they are, I'll be honest. We really felt like we have to watch them. We have to put in some structures. So in doing that, we've added several things. And Mrs. Cobb, you want to talk about that?
Once we came back this year, we knew, like Ms. Shmiotti had shared, that group was a group that we knew we needed to kind of structure things a little bit differently. So we actually incorporated an additional math intervention class for our 4th grade students, this year's 4th grade students, that's set up similar to a Read 180 class. It has a computer segment that focuses on fluency, and then there are 2 small group segments, and they rotate through just like they do in a similar kind of Read 180 system. And in this area, they're able to receive very focused instruction on what their needs are. And we use the MAP scores and the RIT data to show us their needs, as well as what's called the key math assessment. So those are a couple of things that we've done with that particular intervention group. We also have added Do the Math, just like some of the other schools have mentioned, and we're currently providing that intervention for our second and third graders, and we're actually looking at adding a couple more small intervention groups to target the students who have need additional assistance with number sense and have some gaps. With those 4th and 5th grade students, the 4th grade, we also added an additional System 44 class this year. Because we know that Read 180 and System 44 works, and we're seeing the progress, and we knew that those students needed that course. So we added an additional System 44 class. And we're already seeing progress with those students. And we know that that's going to show progress when it comes down to the K-Prep and all of those assessments that we take. We're really excited to see how those students grow, that group, that 4th grade group. We've also become very intentional this year on our RTI committee and our SAT process. I wasn't at White's Tower previously, but I feel like this year it's become very focused on what the steps are for students that are falling short, that need additional assistance. We have an RTI committee that has a representative from each grade level, so every grade level gets input, and we can get to hear valid issues, valid concerns, and everyone feels like they have a voice when we're creating that RTI system. We also have weekly data meetings where we sit down and look at those students that are in the RTI process and look to see if those interventions are working. And if they're not, then okay, what are the next steps? What do we need to do next? And if we need to look at having an SAT to talk about that particular student more, then we will do that as well. We also have we continue to use Compass Learning. We've also implemented Extra Math, as you heard him talk about earlier, at some of the other schools. But I really feel like there's several things that we have really kind of structured because we know that this group is a challenging group as far as they're struggling academically. So really trying to meet their needs.
Definitely. We're also doing Prep and Prep Plus, as you've heard, and it's amazing. The kids love it. Building those kind of connections between the books that they're reading, the different level books they're reading, how all the kids can really bring in that history together. And then in social studies, they're bringing it back up and they're living it. They're like, oh my gosh, super excited. I mean, I have a daughter who's a 5th grader, and she talks about it all the time. So we are so pleased to see those GATES modules and would like to see more. We hope we have more that we can use, Emily and you all, just to get us on track for 4th grade as well. It's an amazing program, and we love it. The kids love it, and they are learning. We're also implementing the 4-Square writing plan at White's Tower this year, and we've had a writing program, and I think it's been a good writing program, but I think we've been looking for that thread to sew it all together. And now with the 4-Square writing program, kids start using it in kindergarten, and they move right up and they add to it, and it gets bigger and broader, but it's the same connection. So I really think that's going to help our kids move forward with their writing and understand that piece. We're also implementing this year the Fry's sight word list. We really got this idea from River Ridge, and they're doing such amazing things there. We're borrowing things from Shauna and Deneen and wherever we can get them, but we've implemented that this year, and we're hoping that by doing this, our kids will have more vocabulary. It's a sight word list program that our parents can do this. It's easy for them to do this at home with their children, to bump their children up in vocabulary and fluency and move them ahead as well. I know I'm running out of time. Based on all of this, we know we have to address our gap group. And at White's Tower, we've just been growing and growing with our free and reduced population. We're up to like 47.8% or something when you really do all the numbers. So we know we have to reduce barriers for those children to get them where they need to be. And I think we not only feel like we have to do it instructionally, but we have to do it emotionally and socially as well. So we are really trying to continue with our PLCs and work with our teachers on differentiation to meet all those needs. Our high kids, our medium kids, our low kids, all of our kids. We're trying to strengthen our regular core instruction so we know who those gap kids are and who the kids that are just falling in the cracks are as well. This is something I know we have to work on. This is a huge thing for White's Tower. We're still continuing to work on the next steps in number talks. We're going to work on specific goal setting. We've done that a little differently this year to where we've made classrooms are kind of having some competition going to see who gains the most growth, not really to see who's scoring the highest. We were careful about that, but they're super excited, and the teachers have those in the hallways as well as individual goal setting, and they are super excited about that. We're also trying to make sure that we have some of our GAP kids in groups, social groups, counseling groups, to make sure we're meeting their needs in that regard as well. And now it's time for me to stop.
She was worried she wouldn't talk the whole time.
Just getting her going.
Thank you
What's your
so much.
population